Because you're culturally appropriating. Do you have a Korean phone in your hand? Yeah. Guess what? That's culturally appropriating. Are those Italian jeans? Culturally appropriating.
Yeah.
Who made your sneakers? Huh? China? What the fuck are we talking about? Culturally appropriating is one of the dumbest fucking things, because that's what cities are. They're melting pots of awesome cultures, and they all get together. Just if you're a fucking dude and you want to dress up like Bruce Lee, that doesn't mean you're culturally appropriating. It means you're a Bruce Lee fan.
Where we dive deep into the culture wars shaping our world today. And today, we're tackling one of the biggest debates in modern society, woke culture, and the man who's been fighting it head on, Joe Rogan. From his $1 million podcast to headline-grabbing controversies, Joe Rogan has become a huge cultural force. But here's the question we're asking today. Has woke culture really gone too far, like Rogan claims? Or is this just pushback against much-needed social change? Buckle up! We've got a lot to unpack in today's episode. Before we dive into his thoughts on woke culture, let's take a quick look at how Joe Rogan became the voice of a generation. He started as a stand-up comedian, moved into acting, and eventually became the UFC's top commentator. But it was his move into podcasting that changed everything.
Well, later today, former President Donald Trump will be in Austin for a taping of the most listened to podcast on Spotify, The Joe Rogan Experience. Yesterday, Trump held a rally in Las Vegas and stopped by a cafe where he addressed a news article from The Atlantic that claims Trump said he wants the kind of generals Adolf Hitler had.
It's a rag that he made up stories. He's done it before. It's a failing magazine. Right before the election, it's just a failing magazine.
With over 11 million listeners per episode, Rogan's podcast has become a powerhouse, featuring some of the world's most famous guests, like Elon Musk, Bernie Sanders, Jordan Peterson, and Donald Trump. Trump's appearance marked a pivotal moment, bringing even more attention to Rogan's stance on open conversation and unfiltered dialogue. So how did he get to the point where his opinions on woke culture resonate so deeply with people? Rogan's entire brand is built on the idea of free speech, having long, unfiltered conversations with guests from all backgrounds, including controversial figures like Trump. And that's exactly where the tension with woke culture begins.
Dirty hippies with dreadlocks.
Yeah.
You know, go to a fucking Grateful Dead concert. There's a lot of dirty white people with dreadlocks. They're not trying to culturally appropriate. They're trying to be dirty hippies with dreadlocks.
Yeah.
They exist. They're real. To say that that's cultural appropriation is fucking crazy. It's we all appropriate. We all do. We all do. If you are in the United States in 2019, you're a part of the greatest melting pot the world has ever known. And to decide that you can have some of that, but you can't have other parts. Like, come on, man. Stop.
Rogan often argues that woke culture is dangerous. He sees it as an attempt to control what people can say and think, shutting down controversial opinions, jokes, and even facts that don't fit into a specific narrative. Here's one of his famous takes on the topic.
That woke shit's out the window. That word retard comes flying out of these kids' mouths. They're bringing that back strong.
Yeah.
They are bringing that back strong.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, that woke thing, it got into college, and then the high school kids, the ones coming up now, they are rejecting it.
He's not wrong, at least in terms of how he sees things. From comedians to intellectuals, Rogan often brings guests onto his podcast who've been targeted by cancel culture or publicly shamed for stepping outside the lines of what's socially acceptable.
I think whether the people that are complaining that he's going to be on Saturday Night Live, I think what's going on now is like they want someone to be 100% compliant to whatever ideology they're a part of.
The woke ideology.
And any deviation of that is problematic. Whether it's because they think, like I saw an article that said Elon Musk donated $150 million to some charity and they called him a cheapskate.
It's hilarious.
How hilarious is that?
Well, wait till they see when I'm a billionaire. Talk about get ready for this cheapskate. No, my brother.
But it was such a shitty article. It's just a poorly written knucklehead article.
It's again, like you say, no one can be woke enough. You know, I'm torn because I like a warrior for a good cause, but I'm really into tactics. You're not going to nag people into behaving.
Right.
in a way that's, in fact, if you continue with this tone, even if you're right, you'll be very hard to hear.
Yeah, I think so.
And
it's just,
One of Rogan's main arguments is that comedy is under attack. His conversations with comedians like Dave Chappelle and Bill Burr highlight how many in the industry feel they're being muzzled. Here's Chappelle's take during one of their conversations.
Entity. We're individualists. We, the mask and all these things that aren't actually, I don't think are actually oppressive, but I can see why Americans would feel they are. Because they just don't trust the messenger anymore.
There's too many mixed signals. It's hard. In the beginning, when Fauci was saying you don't have to wear a mask, and then eventually they were saying you got to wear one.
That was a huge mistake. I agree. Yeah, if you give people information that may not be true, even if you have the intention of having them behave in a way that's beneficial for everybody, the misinformation, the way you achieve these things, the separation from ends and means can be a profound problem if you're managing something like a nation.
So, is comedy really being silenced? Or are people just being held accountable for jokes that punch down instead of up? Of course, Rogan's views aren't without criticism. Many argue that woke culture isn't about stifling free speech. It's about holding people accountable for harmful behavior, language, and bigotry.
At this national championships, right? This national championships where we had Leah Thomas, who is a male, a man, self-identifying as a woman. We were told we fully had to treat this person as a woman, right? This same national championships, we had another athlete who was transitioning. But this athlete is a female who was then self-identifying as a man from Yale. Izzy now goes by the name of Isaac. And we were told we fully had to treat this person as a man. Optics purposes here, to give you perspective of what this looked like from our eyes.
For instance, Rogan has been accused of spreading misinformation on topics like COVID-19 and vaccines. His controversial guests, like Alex Jones and Jordan Peterson, have sparked outrage, especially when their opinions cross into conspiracy theories or unverified. So where does this leave us? On one side, we have people like Rogan, who believe that woke culture stifles open conversation and limits creativity, especially in comedy. On the other hand, proponents of woke culture argue that it's necessary to create a more just and inclusive society, holding people accountable for their words and actions. What do you think? Is Joe Rogan right that we're losing the ability to speak freely? Or is this just the growing pains of a culture becoming more inclusive? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be reading and responding. One thing's for sure, Joe Rogan isn't backing down anytime soon, and neither is the debate around woke culture. If you want more deep dives into topics like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. And don't forget to check out our playlist on woke culture. It's packed with analysis and breakdowns of the biggest voices in this ongoing culture war. Thanks for watching Wokeism.